I was a 16-year-old artist that posted animation memes to YouTube. 8 years have passed since then, and many videos later, sometimes I'll look back at my first videos and think, wow, this looks like shit. Tell me why the did 500,000 people see this? 500,000? I drew these characters only like 11 times since then, okay? These characters I made when I was just a wee teenager, brave enough to post my original works to be broadcasted to the internet forever. They have shaped the way I evolved as an artist, and they suck! No personality, no friends, barely any plot at all. Just two twinks a dork raised by Tumblr made. Do you not like them? Of course I love them! That's why I'm going to make them better, because they deserve a makeover. Let me give you the rundown. This is Richard, aka Dick. I named him that because I thought it was funny. I still do. And Ronnie, Tumblr teen me wanted to draw tsundere yaoi, and I made these two fellas. Their only lore that I have is that Dick here is on the school's football team, but he's about to get kicked off because his GPA score is too low. With the added pressure that his father is the coach, he needs to study if he wants to play football and not disappoint his father. Ronnie ends up being his tutor, and Dick starts to catch some feelings. Hence the tsundere nature of Dick coming off as harsh and mean towards Ronnie as an attempt to hide his feelings. So boring, but of course a teenager would eat this shit up. Like, I watched Dan and Phil for fuck's sake. Okay, now that you're caught up to speed, let's see what I can do to make their designs better while still honoring what makes them them and age them up. Because, frankly, I don't want to drop high schoolers. And they're growing with me. Did you hear something? I'm actually so excited to show you today's sponsor, Unveil. Unveil is a creative platform and you have to check it out. It's a space for artists, writers, creatives, and storytellers that was made by creatives. It's perfect for showing off your worlds, and your mysteriously vague characters' lore is vague no longer. A place built way differently than today's typical online behavior, Unveil just wants folks to be able to create, be inspired, and connect with one another. They're fully anti-AI, and there are already over 150,000 creators sharing their ideas in that juicy, the juicy sweet character lore. I made my account not too long ago, and I had such a blast making the character pages, I got sidetracked and it delayed this upload. As you should know, my D&D character Kosef is very near and dear to me, but everything I share online doesn't really tell you a lot about her. And with Unveil's easy-to-use platform, I filled out all of her traits, like pronouns, height, and added some custom traits, like her class and her subclass. I wrote all of her backstory here, and some of her ideals and flaws, and I finally had the perfect reference point for everything about her. Uploaded some of my art for her, and even connected a Spotify playlist because they somehow knew I made one for her. I already have Kosef, but I've added my other characters, Valak, all of her background, and Beth and Sarah and their updated designs from that video. I already got so much love from you guys on here, so not only will I be putting this video's OCs in there, if you are interested in joining the community on Unveil and want to make some of your own, use the link in my description below. I honestly wish I had a resource like this earlier, so thank you so much for checking them out, and also, happy anniversary to Unveil! I'll link these new and redesigned characters below, but before you spoil yourself, let's start crafting these little fellas. Let's start with Dick himself. Why do I want to laugh every time? Dick is the annoying main character. Nothing in his original design says football player or student, like, at all. With him not being very smart and getting bad grades. That is kind of the intent, but I don't want him to be boring. This man only wears a t-shirt and jeans. The only, iconic thing from his design is this little exposed nerve ending. Believe it or not, I didn't steal this whack-ass hairstyle from Italia. With how active I was on Tumblr, surely some seeds were planted. But besides this little curl, this motherfucker is boring. There have been some recent developments to his design. There's this one TikTok I posted in 2022 that I was like, I'm uncringifying my characters. Drew them twice that year, and the outcome looks like dog. Bro, what is this? That brings me to my first thing. When redesigning your characters, specifically ask yourself, what am I designing them for? Are you designing them just for a comic, your own illustrations? Are you designing them for a short film? Do you need to do a whole turnaround? Think of the context. Is what I'm saying. Now for me, if I want to be able to be excited to draw these OCs again, which is my main goal with all of these, then I'm gonna like to do maybe some very short form comics with these. Because I did a lot of like little doodle comics of them beforehand, I was like, well, if I love doing comics with them, because not gonna lie, I still very much enjoy their relationship dynamics. Like, they're very two different characters and I like to see them interacting. So if that's what they're made for, I want to keep that going with this. Moving on, although that they are due for their twink death, I think it is actually a big part of Richard's character is that he stays a twink. I imagine he's not great at football. The whole reason he was in his high school's football team was because of nepotism. Yeah. And now that Daddy isn't there to hold his hand in college, he is freaking out. He can't do this by himself. Before we go into some more of the personality and like lore changes, let me just talk about like how he looks, okay? I did do some sketches in my sketchbook of these guys first because I wanted to try a bunch of different things, and I know that if I knew that I was recording a speed paint, I wouldn't push myself, okay? I tried different things. I wanted maybe fully curly hair, but in Cringetober, there was a prompt where it was Sundere. So of course I had to draw him, and that time I gave him a mullet. And I'm partial to mullets. I'm sorry. Book me away, boys. I also am partial to mustaches. And I did try that, but it ended up looking like Jay Schlatt Markiplier fan art. So we're not doing that. We are avoiding that. Definitely wanted to keep that kind of curl in there, because like that's his iconic silhouette. So I gave him like a shaggy kind of mullet. He doesn't really put himself together. He wears the most basic shit. He just wants to be a regular American football player. Going into their plot, obviously I aged them up. I want them to be in college now, okay? The stakes are higher. It's not just the football team that you're gonna get kicked off of, Richard. You have a scholarship on the line that if you don't pass your classes, you're not gonna be able to go to school anymore. And then how will your parents feel? I do like the idea of his father still being the coach. I think that puts like a lot of pressure on him as a character to want to continue pursuing college and like want to be able to improve and study and get better just so he can like have that kind of validation. I'm making these comics, but like the way that their plot is laid out reminds me a lot of like a coming of age movie, like an early 2000s movie. You know, that brings up another thing. I wanted to ask myself what era that these characters are living in. I decided just pre-COVID. And I think that's because that's when I went to college, so I think I will relate to it more. Not only that, I think I'll be able to understand their world a little more, like where it takes place and all of that. Speaking of where it takes place, I said that these guys are college students. Let's make a fake college in my favorite way. Fantasy generator. Shout out fantasy name generator. I love you. So I decided that they are in a community college called Lone Pines. And do I have what state that's in? No. Do I think it's important? No. So now I don't have to pick one because I said that it doesn't matter. So I also didn't want to throw away their whole high school plot, like, entirely. Obviously, I made it more of like a scholarship thing where he's gonna lose his scholarship if he doesn't get his ass in gear. But I'm thinking that in high school, Dick is a bully. I think I made it a pretty big part of his character, and that whole trope, being the mean high school jock who bullies people, and then he gets thrusted into college, and now he's like, oh shit, I gotta learn how to be a person. What? Relatable. But I bring that up now because of another character I'm gonna bring up later. But before we get there, let's wrap up this. I gave him like 2 main outfits. The first and main one being obviously a football jersey. Yeah. That way he actually looks like a football player. And also a crew neck with his school's logo on it, because I think he would be not fashionable enough to do anything else, but also, like, I want him to like the school that he's going to. I want him to, like, be proud of it because it's his hometown's community college. Maybe even his dad was a football star on that team or something, and then he also has those kind of expectations going on. Yeah! Waiter, give this man more trauma, please. I didn't decide it because I didn't feel like it was important until just now doing the voiceover. I don't know what his college's, like, football team would be called. Like, usually they have, like, an animal mascot. If it's Lone Pines, I'm thinking maybe some type of foresty animal. I was thinking maybe owl or, like, birds, like an eagle or something. If you have any ideas, let me know, because I didn't pick one out yet. But anyway, here's Dick and all of his daddy issues. Let's start on good old Ronald. Ronald next. This is Ronnie. When I first made him, I didn't give a lot of thought to him. I was like, he's the eye candy. He's the smart, quiet, mysterious one. And that is it. So I definitely wanted to put in the same amount of effort, at least, that I gave to Dick. In his story, Ronnie is a tutor, and Ronnie is a tutor at Lone Pines, but I don't think he actually goes to Lone Pines. I think it'll be more interesting if he actually goes to another school, which I did not name. I had decision fatigue, but I'm thinking it's gonna be called, like, Westbridge Technical School, or like Westbridge Institute, or Westbridge University, or Ridgeview. There's Woodside, and I don't know if Woodside and Lone Pines would be too close together, but let me know what you think would be better. If they're rivals, you know? They're not really rivals because they're in the same state, but with Lone Pines being a community college, I want Ronnie to go to, like, a technical college? Like a college that doesn't have a very high acceptance rate, okay? You gotta be, like, the smartest motherfucker in the world. Like Yale or something. You know, like the equivalent in this universe. But either he volunteers over at Lone Pines, or they hire him over at Lone Pines. Maybe it's like community hours for his degree, which I don't know what kind of degree he's getting either. So science, math, something. Can you guys tell that I'm more like Dick? I am giving more thought to him. It's just I'm not smart. I'm not smart. I hate making smart characters because I'm not. Ow! Something nerdy, you know? Not business. This guy is not a business student, okay? He's like some fucking technical genius. This is... this is Sheldon Cooper, bruh. And when I first made him, I was just like, he's smart, and he's hot, and he has a six-pack and abs. It's even in that animation meme, okay? 500,000 views, by the way! This guy's a strong, silent type, but why does he look like a twink as well? I need to make this man chubby! Foaming at the mouth, biting my lip so hard it rips off. I need this man to be chubby. You know, I haven't really changed when making characters. He's still smart, and he's still hot. My tastes have just changed. That inner teenager in me is healing today. You know how I said that Dick was a bully in high school? When he starts his classes, tutoring classes, he realizes, hey, I recognize my tutor. Oh shit, this was a guy that I bullied relentlessly in high school. And now my entire future is in his hands. I'm fucking cooked. So I did want Dick to kind of bully Ron, obviously, like in true repressed high schooler jock fashion. He's gonna be bullying people, including this fucking nerd. But I think Ronnie doesn't care about him at all. And Dick needs to be tutored the entire time. He's thinking, this guy's out to get me. He's gonna ruin my chances at everything. He's not really gonna help me. Everyone's out to get me. And Ronnie's just chill. He's like, you're clearly going through something. I'm here to do my job because that's what I'm either volunteering or getting paid for. He knows how to separate his business life and his personal life, and I also want that to be a flaw in his character. This kind of professional way that he presents himself has no drip, no pizzazz. It's all business professional. That's how he's supposed to present himself. I would like his story and his character arc to be like, I don't have to keep these two parts of myself separated. I can just be a normal person with a personality. I don't have to be a robot. A lot of the comics that I drew of them was all one-sided from like Richard's point of view, but I really wanted Ronnie to also have some affection towards him. Crazy. How can you ship two characters and one of them be uninterested? Hello? But I think that's a good point, where if he starts to get a little bit of a crush, he's not gonna let it interfere with his work. He's there to do business first and foremost. His personal feelings, he can push aside. Do you get it? Okay, you get it. I want him to learn that there's not just one side to him that he has to, like, keep a secret. I think Ronnie should have a life outside of this education stuff, but I don't think he has that. I think he's also a loner and doesn't make a lot of friends. He has a bunch of colleagues and connections and people that he knows, but he doesn't really have friends that he hangs out with, except one person, which we'll get to later. With his character design, I did want him to have a bigger build and be very square. I wanted to chisel out that jawline. Oh yeah. Also contemplated, instead of him being a tutor, I decided against this, but my first thought was to be like, oh, toxic yaoi with a student and a professor. Actually, I'm not into that weird shit. There's plenty of media out there with that kind of power imbalance. If you're into that, go read it, because this isn't it! I've talked a lot about Dick's father, but I'm thinking about Ronnie's family, and it's kind of giving he's an only child, just really gifted. Young Sheldon vibes. Fuck me. Thinking his parents are so, like, proud of his educational accomplishments, but not so much of him as a person. Okay, we're cooking with gas! So he puts all of his self-worth into his education and his accomplishments and doesn't think that he is enough as a person. Let's go, team! Woo! Alright, now that we gave this hot nerd some trauma, I would call that updated. Still kept his iconic vest, because I think that and his square glasses are what makes Ronnie Ronnie. That's my guy. But I love how he turned out. I really like giving him more emotions, because in previous comics, he is just stone-faced. I had to remind myself, this guy has a range of emotions. He may not show all of them, especially when he is at work or at school, but they're there. And I think he turned out so good. Very Clark Kent kind of vibes. What was that Cartoon Network show? Symbiotic Titan. Octus. Yeah. Heavy inspiration. Now, let's turn our duo into the trio that it was meant to actually be, okay? Big lore drop in the Kelsey animated character lore. So dumb. This is a character that I drew maybe twice, but they have always lived in my head whenever I think about Dick and Ronnie. But this character, I can't even find the drawing where I originally made them, so I made a recreation of what I think they looked like. So this little lady has been living in my head for 8 years. I want to give her the justice she deserves, okay? When I originally made the comics, it was always about Dick and Ronnie, and I actually had them in a universe with these two other characters named Steve and Jeff, and they really had no plot at all. These guys, Dick and Ronnie, have plot. Sometimes I would draw them interacting with each other, but I don't know what gives, but I just didn't really fuck with it, you know? So, in order to make their dynamics more interesting, not just their dynamics, but their whole story, let me throw in a curveball. This is a girl. I didn't remember what I named her. She's actually supposed to be Ronnie's best friend, and I gave her a lot more lore considering this new context, okay? She also attends Lone Pines, but she is also an intellectual, like Ronnie here. These two are like the smartest people from their high school, and they both got accepted into whatever the I want to name Ronnie's college. However, this lady, given the choice of this prestigious school and the community college, I think she chose to go to the community college, or maybe she had no other option. I want her to be on the same kind of intellectual level as Ronnie. I think that's part of the reason they get along together, but also because she basically does the opposite of Ronnie. If Ronnie is the one that is like, okay, business first, I can't have a personal life outside of this, I think this girl does the opposite and puts her own happiness first, which can be a healthy thing, but you know what? I'm also gonna make it her character flaw. Woo! That this girl prioritizes herself a lot. Maybe kind of selfish a little bit. For whatever her reasons for choosing Lone Pines over Ronnie's school, her best friend, she's like, no, I want to go to Lone Pines because it's gonna be easier for me. Yeah, Ronnie's gonna get all these opportunities and scholarships and stuff, but doing all that work is kind of hard. If I just stay here, then I won't have to try so hard. And I feel like Ronnie fucking hates that. But also, she'd be the kind of person to, like, get Ronnie outside of the house and, like, have a social life. Just because she chose to go to Lone Pines doesn't mean that she is not friends with Ronnie anymore. She prioritizes him in a lot of things. But this big decision about what college to go to, she didn't. I also want to mention her name because I keep saying this girl and she and this lady. I ended up naming her Rachel and Rach as like a nickname. The only reason is because when I made Richard, I made his full name Richard Rich Richardson. And remember Steve and Jeff? Jeff's name was Jeffrey Jeff Jefferson Jr. So I wanted this trio to be Richard, Ronnie, and Rachel. Kind of like Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Instead of being like Ronnie, Rachel, and Richard. If it was like the title of something, I'd want it to be Ronnie, Rachel, and Dick. I just think it kind of... like, that rolls off the tongue. It's so stupid. But I love it. Anyway, Rachel was definitely one of Dick's bullying victims. Uh-oh. The kind of dynamic that I wanted to give this throuple, this trio, was very much like Rachel got caught in the middle of their kind of relationship escapades, I guess. Because she's so close with Ronnie and like part of his personal life because they're all in the same school. Whenever Rachel and Ronnie interact, Richard is seeing a side of Ronnie that he doesn't allow to show when it's just them, but as soon as Rachel is there, he kind of lets his guard down, you know? And then they're able to connect that way. But also, Rachel hates Dick. And also Richard. Did that joke land? He bullied her throughout school. And I'm thinking maybe they were close at some point, but Dick, not realizing he was acting like a fucking dick, is like, oh, Rachel, my friend from high school, she's out to get you, bro. Lock your doors. I'll cover more about, like, their dynamics with each other, because, oh, that's my favorite thing. And all the character interactions I think they would have. I'll talk about it then. To focus more on Rachel, wanted this trio to be not really the Powerpuff Girls, but they ended up being the fucking Powerpuff Girls. They're everywhere. Ronnie is Buttercup. Oh my god, they're literally the Powerpuff Girls. But I did want them to stand out next to each other by giving them, like, a main color palette. Ronnie's green, Dick is red, Rachel's blue, duh. But also be very clearly from the same kind of universe, you know? I gave Richard a lot of sharp and curly shape language. Ronnie's more square and round. And I wanted to make Rachel very round and a little sharp. I think it contrasts a lot with her very sarcastic personality. In my mind, what makes Rachel is long hair, the side bang, and the denim jacket, because that is the only thing that I remembered from her is being scrawny and that damn denim jacket. She didn't really have anything other than the denim jacket, so I also gave her gauges in her ears, kind of like Lars from Steven Universe. I really love how his ears are just hoops, and that added more circles into her design, so I was like, yes, that is her. That is my Rachel. Give me to me, Rachel. But I'm really happy with how she turned out. She looks even better than I remember in my head. Like I said, I want to explore the dynamics between these three. So let's watch me doodle some interactions, okay? I only finished a couple of these, so I'm just gonna explain the sketches and you're gonna like it. But this first one is basically Richard's like first day in class, and I want him to feel like he doesn't belong. He bursts into the classroom and disrupts everyone, feels very embarrassed for it. And with his first day in class, like me, I was desperately just searching for people that I knew that I could sit by because the entire environment was so unfamiliar to me. And with the backstory, with Dick being a bully to Rach in high school, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if that was the only person he recognized? So he would want to sit by her, thinking that they're chummy with each other. Meanwhile, she fucking hates his guts. I want to be clear, but I do think that their relationship is very, like, more like siblings that are mad at each other, because they used to be, like, pretty good with each other, but I think, like, maybe one event where Dick, like, took it way too far or did something very cruel that made Rachel start fucking hating him. Okay, do I know what that is? No. Do you know what that is? This first one is just Dick being very chummy with Rachel. The second one that I did was what Richard's first introduction to Ronnie in college would be like. This kind of is mainly just to like set up the plot that they have, where Dick is like talking to a counselor and he's like begging that he can't lose his scholarship. There's got to be something that he can do, and the only thing is for him to get better grades. Okay? They have that tutoring program that they offer to him, and then he realizes, that tutor that has to, help you save your scholarship and your full ride to college? Oh, you bullied that guy. Cool. This next one introduces Dick to Rachel and Ronnie's relationship. She comes in with like coffees or something. I imagine Boba just to chat up with Ronnie and realize that he's still tutoring Richard. And she's like, ugh, What the hell is Dick doing in here? And Richard finally gets to see Ronnie's mask kind of fall off when he's with people that he likes, which is actually just someone who is not involved with Ronnie's work life. But does Richard take it that way? Probably not. Now I want to do a TikTok with that audio that's like, would you want to hang out outside of work? And this one I do render. This one's more when their relationship is very established, like closer. The trio is trioing. A couple of these comics I actually went to, what's the website name? Incorrect Quote Generator, and I put their 3 names in there, and if anything came up where I was like, oh, that's so them, boom, made a canon. But this one is kind of poking fun at how intellectual, literal, logical, whatever you want to, autistic Ronnie is, but also how Rachel and Dick will push each other's buttons. Because, again, I want to have that, like, squabbling siblings dynamic between those two. And I think Rachel, being the in-between of Richard and Ronnie, knowing that they both have crushes on each other, but for their own reasons, will not just talk to each other. So, I like her to go in there and mix the pot, okay? That's what she does. This next one is Rachel and Ronnie, and how Rachel is just very teasingly to Ronnie, and also makes fun of Ronnie for being a nerd. And this next one is also with Ronnie and Rachel, where Ron admits that he has a crush on Richard, and Rachel doesn't take it well. Well, she does because they're friends, but I thought this was funny. And because I never really explored Ronnie's point of view in any of these comics, so I wanted to put this in there, now that he finally has a friend to talk to. This one I do render. I just really wanted to nail down their kind of dynamics where they both like Ronnie so much, and Ronnie likes them, but they just bump heads all the time. And I love that dynamic. This one, I do think it's funny. It was also from that Incorrect Quote Generator, so can't take credit for that one. And those are all the comics that I have so far. Because I had so much fun with this, I can see myself making more comics because I love character interactions. They're my favorite things to do. But I hope that you enjoyed this video because I loved making it. Healing my inner teenager by drawing some good old-fashioned yaoi. But if you have any thoughts or suggestions, I would love to hear them. I love reading your comments. I hope maybe I don't know what this accent is. I hope maybe you got a little inspiration from watching this. Maybe you have some old characters you'd like to give a little refresh to. Give them a little more trauma. Make them a little more interesting. I'm going to put their story in Unveil as well if you would want to check them out and also use it for yourself. Thank you for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. Okay, goodbye. Someone edits my fucking video so that every time I say dick, it's out of context. I'm gonna be so fucking pissed. You have no idea.